What if Walking Wake was in Gen 1 OU? Now, this Pokemon has been just a roller coaster of emotions for me. Because, fun fact, when I first saw this guy, unlike most people, I thought he looked awesome. Because, not gonna lie, Suicune is one of my least favorite legendary Pokemon. Maybe even one of my least favorite Pokemon of all time. I think its design is boring, and way more importantly, I think it plays boring. I am a... I am not a fan of bulky water types. Like, outside of, Slowbro and Slowking, and even then, I don't count those guys as, problem bulky water types since they're mainly pivoting. Milotic, again, Suicune, what's that big fish from Gen 9? Dondozo, Toxapex. These are all just very boring Pokemon for me to play, and especially to go up against. So not only did I really appreciate Walking Wake, just actually doing something fun, but it's also a dinosaur, and I love dinosaurs, and I have ADHD, so that means that almost every single dinosaur I just love automatically. Raging Bolt is the exception. That looks a little too ridiculous for me. But Walking Wake, for that alone, I think it's a lot better than Suicune. Not to mention, when it came out, I used it for Showdown National Dex. I used it on a team with Mega Charizard Y, my favorite Mega, and I managed to get on the leaderboard. First time ever getting on the leaderboard in a long time, actually. So that was a lot of fun. I like how Walking Wake is also a water type that you use on Sun. I think it's one of the few Pokemon in Gen 9 with an actual well-designed signature move, which is strange. That doesn't really happen. But then I saw its moveset for this video, and I went from loving this Pokemon to immediately feeling confused. Because I saw its moveset, which I'll talk about in a little bit, and I was like, this is not very good. This is a water type that has no ice coverage. So I was thinking to myself, okay, this guy for Generation Jumble might be really mid. But then I made the replays, and I'm like, wow, this guy does very well against Tauros. It's actually pretty good. But then I made more replays, and I'm like, oh wait, no, he kind of sucks. And now that I finished making all the replays, I'm like, he's pretty good, but he has a lot of problems. A lot of problems. So I really don't know how to feel about this Pokemon. I'll say this though, it is a better water dragon type than Kingdra. So unlike him, I think Walking Wake will actually just be able to do stuff. It definitely helps that he has real stats. Not that 95 and everything, but speed isn't good. But Walking Wake just does it better, let's be real. As for the Pokemon itself, since we're talking about Kingdra, I guess we might as well talk about how it is a water dragon type, meaning it has no weaknesses in Gen 1, because the only dragon move is Dragon Rage. And Dragon Rage is a set move, so it's only going to do 40 damage. For Generation Jumble Season 2, however, it's going to be both better and worse for Walking Wake. It's going to get Dragon Claw, so that will be a 80 special stat move, which is good. And it's also going to be good because there'll be other dragon types like Goodra, Naganadel, Salamence, Haxorus, which will be, except it can hit super effectively. But that's also going to be a big detriment. For Season 2, it will have a weakness. However, it's still going to be very different from the other dragon types. So I don't think it's going to be the worst thing in the world. Especially since, even without dragon moves in the actual Gen 1, there's many places, and especially different matchups, where Walking Wake struggles a lot. Neutral moves, just like I said in the Kingdra video, are everywhere in Gen 1. Whether it be Psychic, Electric, or especially normal. So Walking Wake is still gonna suffer a lot. But there's also gonna be areas where it'll be really strong. So Walking Wake, I'd say he's fairly balanced. His stats are pretty good. I would say that's above average HP for the time. Obviously, that special attack is great. And having 109 speed it's both a blessing and a curse. Because on one hand, you outspeed the base 100 Pokemon, so you're very fast for the time. And you even get to outspeed the base 100 Zapdos, and that's great. But how fast is Gengar and Tauros? That's right, base 110 speed. Being just one speed set below them is hell, especially for Tauros, because it's Tauros. It has Body Slam and it crits a lot, so it's like, you wish at the very least you had a speed tie, but unfortunately you're a past Paradox Pokemon, meaning all of your stats are odd numbers. If it was a robot instead, it would have base 110 speed, which for some reason would just make everything even. But it's not the worst thing in the world, because even though it's only one speed point lower, it still basically has the exact same crit rate. Or actually, it might just have the exact same crit rate. I remember seeing the spreadsheet about it like a while ago, showing the different speed tiers and what the crit rate is. But I don't remember it having one point in speed. I don't remember if that makes a difference or not. Doesn't matter either way, because even if it does make a difference, it's inconsequential. So this thing has Tauros' crit rate, but it has a much higher special stat, and it has very powerful stat moves such as Hydro Pump. Which, speaking of which, that means we should probably get to its move pool. Agility is already pretty good. I mean, honestly, you might want to consider using it, since that does kinda get rid of your problem of being outsped by Tauros. Not to mention, Walking Wake is definitely a Pokemon where I feel like it's a very dangerous Wake game cleaner, so being able to just not lose automatically to Paralysis, I think it's very much worth it. Can't really say the same about Body Slam, because I've already had some people test Walking Wake in my Discord server. By the way, you should join that. That's where the Generation Jumble Season 2 tournament will happen. And I remember Cyber DJ, one of the Generation Jumble council members, and second place next to yours truly for Season 1 of the Generation Jumble. He talked about how Walking Wake's physical moves are extremely mid. So even though it has Hyper Beam and Body Slam, they just don't hit that hard. And it's true, it has a great crit rate, but it's still not very reliable, in all honesty. But it also doesn't have many better moves, if I'm being honest. For Season 2, it'll have access to Dragon Claw. So at the very least, that's another instance where it'll be better there, despite having a real weakness it needs to worry about. But for Gen 1, instead, you're going to have to use Flamethrower, which is good coverage, but it's also very awkward to use because it's Gen 1, and it's not like Fire Blast. With Fire Blast, you have a 30% chance to burn, so that's really good. So good, it kinda makes up for the fact that it can automatically defrost frozen Pokemon. The game can't really be said for Flamethrower. At just a 10% chance to burn, you can't really rely on that. against, like, let's say Tauros. Meaning, you're gonna use it, because not only do you have nothing better to use, but also, it's just legitimately good coverage for your water resists, such as Executor exactly. And even then, it doesn't really hit that hard, because it's still Flamethrower. Which is weird to say, but keep in mind, in Gen 1, everything has max stats, so you have max HP and special. Which is another reason why Fire Blast is just generally used. It's the same reason why Thunder is also better than Thunderbolt in Gen 2. Because there, everything's so bulky, you would still rather go for the more powerful move. But you're still going to use Flamethrower. But yeah, you wish you had Fire Blast, or you wish you had Blizzard. Both of those would be so great. But I think it's for the best it doesn't get ice coverage, at least for actual Gen 9. Because having a sunny weather Pokemon with strong water, ice, and fire moves, that doesn't sound fun. Now, as for its signature Hydro Steam, it would be just like Waterfall, in the case that it would be a signature move, but also it wouldn't have any secondary effect. So Hydro Steam is just a worse version of Surf, and Surf, I would say, is just a worse version of Hydro Pump. Hydro Pump, you would definitely rather have over Surf, because you'll see it with the first replay. But this thing is so, like, incredibly powerful, and it has Tauros' crit rate with a higher special stat. When this thing crits with Hydro Pump, it does insane damage. In fact, I would say Hydro Pump probably replaces Blizzard for just the highest, like, damaging move ever, not counting Explosion or, what's it called? Explosion or, like, boosting moves. Like Articuno, it is, yeah, 125 special. So Walking Wake has literally the exact same special. I'm pretty sure Hydro Pump is the exact same base power as Blizzard. Or maybe it's a little bit more powerful in, like, the early generations. Which means that it basically hits just as hard as the other most powerful special move in the game, except on a much better crit rate. Or maybe much better isn't the right word, it's only like... Actually, no, I'm pretty sure Articuno is base 90 speed. So actually, yeah, it would be a much better crit rate. And if that's the case, then, yeah, I think Walking Wake just has the most powerful move, basically. Which is definitely nothing to sneeze at. When Walking Wake, it's on the field, I'm not sure why I had a hard time wording that, but when your opponent, like, sends out their Walking Wake, you have to respect it. You can't really afford to just, like, be careless around it. Which is definitely a huge point in Walking Wake's favor. And I think it's going to be the main reason why it's going to stand out as its own dragon type in Season 2. Which is great. But there's also going to be other dragon types in Season 2. So Walking Wake, Hydro Pump just... It will inherently become less valuable because of that. But then again, it outspeeds Salamence and Haxorus. It'll do decent damage no matter what with Hydro Pump, especially if it has a crit. And then Dragon Claw can probably kill them afterwards. However, it will suffer a lot from both Goodra and Naganadel. Not sure which one is a bigger threat, because Goodra is incredibly tanky and Naganadel outspeeds you. But that's just, it's worth mentioning. And it's basically like, Hydro Pump is the main move you're using anyways. It's very rare you're going to want to use anything else. But for that off chance, Will Kick is probably your best physical move. It's weird, because it doesn't even do that much to Chansey. But since you have a good crit rate, as well as Will Kick's 30% chance to flinch, it's like the best thing you have against it. But even then, I'd still say the matchup is pretty bad. But it's the best thing you got. So I think that's it for the move pool. Yeah. So I would say the best thing is Hydro Pump, Flamethrower, and the moves don't really matter that much afterwards. So you can go for Low Kick, and if it's Generation Jump Season 2, I would say go for Dragon Claw. Otherwise, you can choose between Body Slam or Hyper Beam. Body Slam, even if it doesn't hit that hard, still has a good paralysis chance. And Hyper Beam, I guess, will do some damage if you get a crit. But it's still very unreliable. Not gonna lie, I'm not sure why I had so much to say about Walking Wake. I feel like this might be one of my better videos. But you guys will have to be the judge of that. Let's get on to the replays, shall we? Now, this replay right here is when I had a complete 180 on Walking Wake's viability. Because Body Slam didn't really do that much, and a crit is just a guaranteed KO. What the heck? Like, this right here just showed me just how powerful Walking Wake really will be. Because that's insane. But it's also not consistent. Because keep in mind you're still using Hydro Pump, or as I like to call it, Hydro Miss. Because I swear to God, whenever I use Hydro Pump, I feel like I miss more with Hydro Pump than I do with Focus Blast. However, as you saw there, even without a crit, it just 2-hit KOs Tauros. And that is huge. Doing that much damage to the best Pokemon in the tier, it almost makes me feel like Tauros might be in trouble as the best Pokemon in Season 2. But then again, there's other Dragon types as well, and they are really strong. So, probably not. A crit also does a lot of damage to Snorlax as well. 80%! How does something do 80% to Snorlax? It's just absolutely insane. To be honest, I almost wonder if it's worth using Surf as well. Because maybe Surf is better for when you're just trying to get, like, a KO and something that's already in the red. And if that's the case, I would say Walking Wake's actual best moveset might be Hydro Pump, Flamethrower, Surf, and Dragon Claw. At least for Generation Jump Season 2. You can disagree with me if you want. That's part of the reason for the Generation Jump, for you guys to play games against me and everyone else, and to prove me wrong. Now for Chansey, unfortunately... Oh wait, no, I forgot. I have another replay. Because I forgot that... freaking... like, Hydro Pump is just a 3-hit KO. You're not supposed to 3-hit KO Snorlax. Like, even though it's very strong, one thing I will say though, as we go to this Chansey replay, Walking Wake is kind of a one-trick pony. Because outside of really powerful Hydro Pumps, what else does it do? Its only other real coverage move is just really bad against, like, almost everything in the format, just because of how powerful Freeze is. As you see here, even a critical Low Kick is not even a 2-hit KO. Neither is Hyper Beam. So Walking Wake just suffers so much. The Chansey is always going to be able to, like, paralyze you. And if it paralyzes you, it's just faster, so you can't even take advantage of a lucky crit you might get. Keep in mind, Chansey can even survive 2 critical Low Kicks. So even if you get lucky with 1 flinch, Chansey still gonna get a chance to Thunder Wave you and then heal up. So, now that I'm actually looking at the replay again, I'm thinking Chansey might need to be moved to unwinnable. Because, what does Walking Wake do here? Even in a best case scenario, Chansey probably wins. The same is also very similar for Alakazam. I'm telling you right now, by far, Walking Wake's biggest weakness, any high special Pokemon with Psychic. Because pretty much all of these have the capability to beat Walking Wake 1v1. Alakazam is no exception. It's faster, it can crit, and Psychic can just lower special. And you know how I literally just said Hydro Pump is Walking Wake's, like, basically it's a one-trick pony? Yeah, what happens if you want Walking Wake special, which in turn makes his Hydro Pumps weaker? That's right, outside of crits, it's pretty much screwed. and high special Pokemon can very easily tank those crits. So, even there, like, sure, Hydro Pump does most of Alakazam's health, but again, it's Hydro Pump. It misses a lot. So, it's very easy for Alakazam to just recover off the damage until you eventually miss. And Hydro Pump itself it does have a lot of power points, which is yet another reason why I feel like Walking Wake is very inherently flawed. So, like, maybe it's not the worst singing, but even Cloyster, Flamethrower does practically nothing. Like, it has much higher special than Cloyster, but Flamethrower is still a 4-hit KO. Granted, a crit would do better, but even a crit is still just a 2-hit KO. Or no, actually, I think a 2-hit KO is accurate, but Cloyster's Blizzard still does a lot, and even if Walking Wake gets a crit, Cloyster can always just explode. I'm still gonna be nice and make it a could go either way, but I'm gonna say it's more so in Cloyster's favor. And with how little Flamethrower did to Exeggutor, this actually might just be a bad matchup. Because again, Exeggutor, it has high special. Not to mention, even with a crit, it's not gonna kill Exeggutor. So Exeggutor, I think most of the time, is gonna have the advantage. Which is ironic considering it's a grass type against a high special Pokemon with fire coverage. But I think this is the first time ever going over a Pokemon that uses Flamethrower but doesn't have Fire Blast. So today is your guys' lesson as to why Flamethrower is just not very good. It really isn't. Even Fire Blast wouldn't be that good without a 30% burn chance. And we actually have a Gengar replay to go over today. And that's because Gengar, even without Hypnosis, pretty easily beats Walking Wake in a 1v1. This is one of those cases where being slower by exactly 1 point makes like a world of difference. Because if every once in a while, Walking Wake could speed tie and get a crit Hydro Pump, I would say the match would be a could go either way. But since Gengar's always faster, that makes it dangerous, especially since it has Psychic. Because you saw from this replay here, it can be very bad if you get a special drop almost immediately, which is fairly likely. Now Jolteon is faster than you as well, which is a huge problem. And given that damage range there, I'm not sure if a crit Hydro Pump kills Jolteon or not. If it does, I'd be willing to move this matchup that could go either way. However, at the moment, I'm going to assume that Jolteon would barely survive a crit. And if that's the case, Jolteon pretty definitively beats Walking Wake in a 1v1, I would say. Because Thunderbolt did a lot there. I don't doubt that it would definitely be a 2-hit KO. Speaking of 2-hit KO, Flamethrower is a clean 2-hit KO on Jinx. So if you get a crit, you're great. If you don't, you're probably screwed. Because Blizzard with crits hits hard, Psychic hits hard, it can roll your special. So definitely do not use Walking Wake as a lead Pokemon. It probably won't go very well for you. Or maybe it will. You just have to be lucky and good at the game. Oh boy, the Starmie matchup. This is probably your most unwinnable matchup out of all of them. The only thing you could possibly do is just hope you get a paralysis on Body Slam. But even if you do, it has Thunder Wave. So there's nothing you can do. And I think this right here is going to be a huge blow to Walking Wake's viability for Generation Jumbo Season 2. Because if it can't do crap to Starmie, which will definitely be one of the most used Pokemon in the tier, even with bug types, yeah, Walking Wake, I'll probably test it out, but I'm gonna be real, I might even use Salamence over Walking Wake. Because at least Salamence has, better things it could be doing. For example, it's a ground immune Pokemon that can switch into Rhydon and threaten the Okolit again with Hydro Pump. And Salamence has a base 100 speed stat, so its crits will be hitting pretty hard as well. Or, in all honesty, the Gonadel and, Udra will probably be the definitive dragon types, if I'm being honest. Walking Wake will be decent, but I guess we'll go over the last replay with Zapdos before I give my final thoughts. Against Zapdos, it's both better and worse than the Jolteon matchup. On one hand, you're, actually faster, which means that Hydro Pumps, especially crits, will do a lot of damage. However, not only can Zapdos paralyze you to become faster, not only is Zapdos in of itself have a pretty good crit rate, but it's a lot bulkier than Jolteon. So if you don't get a crit, as you see there, Zapdos can tank it pretty easily. Also, its main move, Thunderbolt, is way more accurate than your Hydro Pump. So it's pretty bad, I would say. Even though it's a special attacker that doesn't have Psychic, Walking Wake still suffers a lot. But here is the tier list. Obviously, it also does great against Rhydon. You guys didn't need to see that. Just like how you didn't need to see Amnesia Slowbro completely wall it. Sure, Surf is quad resisted by, Walking Wake. However, it doesn't matter. If Slowbro can completely max out its special and with rest, there's no doubt in my mind it can very easily stall out Walking Wake. And I'm not gonna sit here and watch that replay. Good chance with max special, Surf even does decent damage to Walking Wake. But I guess we'll have to see when Generation Jumbo Season 2 comes out. I think all I have left is Poison Jab, Minchow, and Iron Hands. I don't think I have any other fighting types to go over. So yeah, we're getting close to Generation Jumbo Season 2. So I hope you guys are excited for that. I'm going to have to talk to my council members, because now I think it's probably a good time to actually determine what a date is. So expect that tomorrow or the day after. Also be sure to join the Discord server. For those of you who don't know, the way we do these tournaments is there's no, standard time. Basically, all you need to do is just, ping your opponent and you guys decide a time. So it doesn't matter if you're in France, Germany, Korea, the United States, you're going to be able to make it for the tournament. You're going to have a few days to actually sign up too. So be sure to join the server, because it's going to be a lot of fun. But until then, this is Groundback, and I look forward to hearing from you.